Dear ones, it is so good to be together. We're so glad that you're here and have an opportunity to greet those faces around you, whether it's here in our sanctuary or on Zoom. So today is Membership Sunday, and we did a service like this last year, but do we really remember things on Zoom? No, I mean, there's a sense of embodied practice that helps things stick a little bit more. And so we're doing something live and really getting to see people today who are in different classes of membership share what it has meant to them to be in membership, whether for a few months or 10 years or 25 years or 40 years. And I'm so excited to center their stories today. While the worship team was thinking about this service, Karen Cadell Murphy said, you know, Reverend Christina Leon Tracy, who was a minister here until about 4 years ago, gave a service on the meaning of membership, and it was hands down one of the best sermons. We kept talking about it. And so I knew I shouldn't try to compete with that. But it actually got me stirring about actually how meaningful it is to talk about membership, how meaningful it is to talk about the commitments you make in your life and the relationships you intentionally allow to form and shape your life. So I want to say the act of membership is the decision to become a member is a wholehearted, courageous, life-affirming decision. And it's an act that gets chosen a little less these days. And I don't just mean people not choosing to go to church. They're also not choosing to vote. They're not joining civic organizations. They're not choosing marriage. They're not choosing to stay in any type of committed relationship. It's really dwindling. And today I invite you to listen for what happens when you do choose yes, when you do choose to accompany a group of people for years. How does it shape you when you enter and commit to a movement for decades? There are a few things that you find. Belonging, purpose, instruction, support. I imagine you'll hear some of those things today. The number one thing that I tell people in our Pathway to Membership class is that as Unitarian Universalists who believe in an interdependent and interconnected reality, where one part is never fundamentally and essentially cut off from any other part. What that means to us here in our congregation is that when we enter into membership, and the more that we show up in mind, i.e. intention, in body with our presence, or in spirit with love and compassion and welcome and resilience, the more we do those things, the more that we will be shaped by this community. But also, membership is the invitation that the congregation extends to each member, even a new member, even someone who's been here just 3 months, to shape us. It's a two-way street. We will shape each other's lives. And that is an incredible invitation, a powerful invitation. How wonderful at the nearly 400 of us who are currently saying yes to that. The other thing that I like to say, and you might hear sometimes this too in some of the messages, which I don't know what they're going to say, is that I say that there's at least 2 times people join in membership. The first time is when you sign the membership book and we celebrate, and I like to take the new member's hand and look them in the eye and say, welcome. Welcome. And then the second time is when we, the ministers, the community, disappoint you. Because we will, Yeah, I thank you, Lex. It's totally true. Thank you for bringing the honest reaction into the room. When we disappoint you and you decide to stay with us anyway. Or come back, right? Because that's why we're a covenantal relationship. We don't just cut each other off and say, well, there's nothing we could do with you, right? When disappointment pierced me through, I kept on loving you, goes that beautiful hymn. So today we celebrate how real it is to be in relationship with one another. Real, authentic, honest, disappointing, powerful, reaffirming, and life-giving. Are we ready? So today we're going to hear, every membership class that we're honoring today we have a representative of that class who's going to give, think about it as a class representative testimonial. And on behalf of our first-year members, it is my honor to light up McKendry J.
Thank you, Reverend A. Good morning, everyone. My name is McKendry J, and I decided to join UUCA earlier this year as a member. I was invited to share a reflection of my experience here so far with the church and why I made the decision to sign the great big book. Presumably because my history here is unique. Many of you already know me or have heard my unusual name on occasion. Until now, I'm pretty sure that I've been the longest serving almost member in UUCA history. I first came to this church in the summer of 2001 when my family relocated here in Annapolis from Virginia. I was 13 and I was ready to start my freshman year of high school, though I didn't have a single friend in this strange new town. My parents only had a few and sought out a community that would serve as a familiar foundation upon which to start a new life. As longtime members of the UU Church in Mount Vernon, where I grew up, UUCA seemed like the best choice. That summer, I met some of the most welcoming humans who had a genuine interest in getting to know me and making me feel included. Some I even got to hug in the hallway at school, which was a serious blessing for me while I navigated the awkwardness of finding my social footing. 4 years doesn't seem like much time nowadays, but the 4 years that followed that summer brought more inclusion, more relationships, and a solid community that my small nuclear family of 3 could consider chosen extended family. My father found his longtime best friend here, and his son later became one of my 2 best friends. The other, by the way, also came of age in UUCA. I realized while drafting this that the last time I stood here and addressed this congregation was at my final youth-led service in the spring of 2005. The faces are a little bit different than I remember. After that, I left the nest to explore my adulthood and ultimately settle back in the area nearby in my late 20s. About 7 years ago, I was invited to play drums at a special service and caught the attention of Josh Long, our contemporary music director. He asked if I would be willing to play contemporary music one Sunday a month for Reverend John Cresswell in what was then called the Awake Ministries services. After meeting me and learning my story, Reverend John looked at me and said, "Yep, we're going to get you back." And I said, "Well, not exactly. I'm just here for the music." To which he replied confidently in that John Cresswell kind of way, "Nope, we're going to get you back. Just you wait." Playing with the UUCA worship band once a month over these past years was a rewarding experience on its own, and though it wasn't much church, I gradually found myself needing those words spoken on Sundays as an adult, and that was something that was missing in my life. Being here was a reminder that my spirituality and my compassion for others deserve to be nurtured as much as anything else, which are 2 major aspects that I had largely ignored for many years. I remember at one point, Reverend Cresswell had a service on intention, and it got me to think. I'd not forgotten it. It got me to think what my intentions were, and that most of my life up until that point I was living non-intentionally. And it's not good or bad, but it's not intentional. And it got me to think about that, and what are my intentions and what will my intentions be? But playing in the worship band also led to one of the most life-changing events for me. One of its other musicians, a relatively new member of the church at the time, came up to me after service one Sunday in February of 2020 and started up a conversation. Little did we know, at that time it was at that time, because of the COVID pandemic, it would be our last in-person service at UUCA for a very long time. And also, little did we know that 2 years later, almost to the day, that she'd become my wife. Thank you. I'm here to say right now to Reverend John, you won. You got me back. I've since moved to Southern Maryland with my new family to follow my dream of living in the country, and honestly considered finding a church that was not an hour's drive from home. But we didn't have the heart. We had a home church, which could only be UUCA. And for all that it has done for me, it only makes sense that I finally start to enrich this place with what I can give back to it. I'm delighted to be here. I look forward to meeting new people and to helping to build a more beloved community here, and all the hard work that accompanies that task. So for anyone today listening who has a young person right now who's in faith formation, or 2 or 3, I leave you with this. When they eventually grow up and branch off to become themselves, they very well may return to plant their own seeds in this very garden of chosen extended family. So thank you, UUCA, and especially Reverend Anastasia, Reverend John, and Reverend Fred for your past, present, and future hand in keeping this garden so fertile. Thank you.
Good morning. Good morning. 2001, UUCA, intern, ministers, marriage. 2003, 2005, babies, blessing ceremonies. 2012, invitation, a sanctuary for learning, worship, spiritual inquiry, principles, truth, varied beliefs, open minds, hearts, meaningful, sermons, messages, my people, aligned, Al, coming of age, Charlotte and James, Pat and Cliff, journey, milestones, friends, mentors, Diane Goforth. Building a world, privilege, awakening, confessions, grace, belonging, Reverend John, awake, emotional literacy, shame, addiction, support, recovery, healing, intentional, faith in action, hope, justice, fight, shared values, Betty Crowley, legislative testimony, petitions, at the polls, marriage equality, Trayvon Martin. Wake up, purpose, march, together, racial justice, Black Lives Matter, Black churches, St. Philip's, Surge, Thornell Jones. Accountability, base building, coming to the table, Rusty Vaughn, building beloved community, diversity, inclusion, focus, goals, shared learning, discussions, possibilities, grow allies, movement, voices, united, challenge, Fred Muir, organize, power, relational, leadership, listening sessions, collective issues, ACT launch, faith, Unitarian, eighth principle, Ellie Gomez, courage, evolve, movement, retirement party, interim, strife, unalignment, clash, shooting, massacre, community trauma, continued disappointment, hurt, people of color, silenced, questioning, fragility, white fragility, centering, humility, confusion, prayer, pandemic, screens, disconnect, George Floyd, rally, distance, mother, and death, heartbroken, self-care, carry on, space, frustration, conflict, circles nowhere, blocked, again, anger, exhaustion, time, energy, ministers, no return, hurt, sad, protective, disappointed, finished, reflection, soul searching, anxiety, stomach ache, covenant broken, me, rest, reset, yearning, more, support, intention, engagement, action, activists, justice, remember, fighters, realign again, anti-racist, purpose, example, being, my people, my church, 10 years, blessings, commitment, growth, disappointment, messy whiteness, oppression, denial, resign, stay, repeat. What's next?
Good morning. Thank you for this opportunity. My name is Ted Hall, and I came to this church 25 years ago looking for a place to get married. And I walked in those doors, and Fred was up here, and he was really reprimanding the congregation, and he was saying, "You're expecting us to do so much, and you're not giving us the money we need to do it." And it was probably the worst sermon I've ever heard. It was terrible. And I sat in that chair, and I knew that I had found my home. And I knew that I was a Unitarian, not that I was going to become a Unitarian. I knew that I had found my people, and I was a Unitarian, and I'd always been a Unitarian, and I was born a Unitarian Universalist. I was born that, and I came, and I'm like, oh my gosh, there's other people like me. I couldn't believe it. I was so excited, and it just, that's the way it was, and that's the way it is. And what Anastasia said, it's difficult in a 25-year relationship with something that you love is hard. And I've seen a lot of people come and go. And I've seen the most active and people that just put their whole heart into the church get angry and leave. And And I've been hurt, and I've been angry at the church. But I'm not leaving, you know, I'm still here. And this is the place that means so much to me. And I've seen the church change in 25 years, and I've changed. And we've, just like you said, we've molded each other. I've been involved in the molding of the church, and the church has been involved in the molding of me. I just wanted to tell you two little things of how I was molded in this church. There was a woman named Alethea Shiplet, and we used to go, my family, after we'd been here a while, we used to go to the church retreat. And I went to one of these retreats, and Alethea was doing a little breakout session on nonviolent communication. And my wife hadn't come with me, and I was angry. I was angry that she wasn't there. And we, you know, so I said, well, I'll just go. You know, I'll go to this nonviolent communication thing. And I went, and, you know, they said the first 3 people that come will get a book. And I went, and I showed up, and there were 6 other people there, and they were all female. I was the only guy there, and they had me come up and work through something, and I finished, and then they gave me the book, and I said, I don't want the book. I'm not going to read it. I don't read that much. Later in life at work, I had a terrible situation, and I was so angry I didn't know what to do. So I read the book. And when I was reading the book, I couldn't believe it. I'm like, oh my gosh. You can listen to people and repeat what they said. And I mean, it's so obvious to you guys. You're like, of course you can do that. But I was dumbfounded. I couldn't believe it. I'd read it over. I started highlighting it. And I went and I talked to the people that I was so angry at. And I followed those directions. At that time, I just followed them. I just did what it said. And it came out. And I started talking to my wife that way. And she couldn't believe it. She was like, I mean, it just blew her away, you know, that I was listening and repeating. And well, I really wanted to learn more about it. I really wanted to do more. I never took any classes on it or anything except that one with Alethea. So I read more books on it, and then I found out there was a guy named Mark Lindley who was doing nonviolent communication. He was teaching it to prisoners at Jessup. And I said, man, if I teach it to the prisoners, I'll learn how to do it better. I'll be better at doing it. I didn't go there to help the prisoners. I went there to help me. And I got there. Every week we'd go and we'd work with these incredible guys that were just amazing. And it was my safe place. The prison was my safe place. I couldn't wait until Tuesday evenings because I could go to the prison and feel completely connected with life and with the gentlemen and just so safe. And we did that until COVID. And it changed my life. It changed me. And, you know, I really, really thank the church for that. And Mark I don't even think he's a member of the church, but he still goes, you know, he's still. And since the other one was the 8th principle. And when I read Waking Up White, I just didn't know. I was very surprised at what I didn't know and what was going on. So I was molded in those 2 ways. And I was also involved in molding the church. Those people that are new to the church, I will tell you, you will be disappointed. You will be hurt. It will happen. It just does. But we are here for you. I care about you. I love this church. And I love you guys. And thank you very much.
So I may have only been a member for 40 years, but coming this fall, I will have been actually coming here for about 55 years. It was very easy for me. I just climbed into the back of the car when my mom and dad, Bill and Sadie Curtis, brought the family to this church. Of course, at that time, it was at Ridgely Avenue. I don't know what it is now, but for the longest time, it was the Birthright Clinic. We always thought that was an interesting transition from the Unitarian Church. And I was there when we did the groundbreaking for this church. I don't remember exactly when that was. And then again, after the fire that came through here, and we were meeting, I believe, in Parole Elementary School for a while our building was being renovated. As a child growing up in here, I came here in the 3rd grade, and a couple of my favorite classes, one of my favorite was the neighboring faiths. We would go and learn about a religion, and then we would actually go into a service. I loved it so much that when my kids came through, I participated in when we went to the services, because to me that was a great way to learn about that. And I don't distinctly remember learning about the Bible when I was I probably did, but I was glad to have my kids have some exposure to that in the couple of years that they had with that class. And I also was here, I don't know if it was the very first, but it was one of the first times that the human sexuality class was given here. It didn't become a yearly thing until 10 or 15 or 20 years later, but I thought that was good enough class that when they had an adult version many years later, I participated in that also. And as Ted was mentioning, my family always loved the retreat. That they couldn't wait for the retreat to come around. They were ready to sign up. When one retreat ended, they were ready for the next one. That was something that was big in the family. And as I was coming through after the Sunday school was ending, I moved into the LRY, Liberal Religious Youth, which then became the YRUU. So it had a lot of meaning to me, and it was nice to have my kids come through the Sunday school. I thought that the programs that were involved in the Sunday school were very good. I did do a couple of the classes throughout the church also that were meaningful to me. And I must admit, the most meaningful part of this church has always been the choir. I actually first joined the choir probably in junior high when Betsy Joe, our longtime choir director, she was on leave for a short while when I first got here, and they were having choir rehearsals at people's homes. And at least when it was in our home, I came and joined the choir. So, and in high school, I sang with the choir, and feel very lucky to have had Betsy Joe, and we've had many good directors. And right now, we have a wonderful director, Rob Raday, and our fine accompanist, Ron Gidding. We are so lucky to have them both. So that is what has kept me here. Is the music has been the most important part to me, and I can completely relate to you, your feelings, but thank you for letting me share.